Thank you, Pastor, for leading worship. I worshiped. Great songs. Great words. What I have in my hand here, by the way, Linda and I are glad to be back for a while. We don't have any trips planned for the rest of the year, and unless Misty calls us and needs us, we're glad. We've, since June, we've been extremely busy. And it's just good to put the suitcases up. I know you guys know how that feels. Here is a book. Oh, here's our offering for today. This is a book called The Gospel by Kermit Zarley. If you are a golfer, you know that Kermit Zarley was a professional golfer. He put this book together. They are also called Harmonies of the Gospels. And what he's done is he's taken the NIV translation and he has put all the instances of a miracle, of an event of Jesus' life, and woven them together in one place. So tonight I'm going to talk about the water of the boat from Matthew 14, 22 through 33. It's recorded in Mark 6, 45 through 52, and John 6, 16 through 21. But I'm not going to read it out of any of those. If you turn to Matthew 14, it's the longest one. But I'm going to read Zarley's The Gospel, Harmony of the Gospel of this event. Jesus walks on the water. Knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he withdrew again. He went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. His disciples went down to the lake where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them. A strong wind was blowing, and the waters grew rough. The boat was already a considerable distance from land in the middle of the lake, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Alone on land, he saw the disciples straining at the oars. About the fourth watch of the night, when they had rowed 3 or 3.5 miles, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. He was about to pass them when they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on the water. They all saw him and were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" Then they were willing to take him into the boat, because they no longer believed he was a ghost. So they allowed him in the boat. And when they had climbed into the boat with them, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves, and their hearts were hardened. Immediately the boats reached the shore where they were heading. They landed at Gennesaret and anchored there. As soon as they got out of the boat, the people of that place recognized Jesus They sent word to all the surrounding country. I think it's very interesting. When Jesus came to the disciples on the water, he was revealing his divine presence and power. Only God can do such a thing. Only God. It is interesting that the disciples entered the boat in the first place at Jesus' command. They would have to learn, just like we have to learn, that obedience is no guarantee of being spared adversity. Don't miss that. That's important. Obedience is no guarantee of being spared adversity. But now that the storm had their full attention, Jesus decided it was time that the disciples got to know a little bit more about the guy who was piloting this thing. He said it like this. It's like this, men. You can trust me because you know my character and my competence. You can safely place your destiny in my hand. Take courage, it's me. You can trust me. You know my character and my competence. You can safely place your destiny in my hand. Take courage. It's me. Then Peter blurted out to the water walker, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. That's a very interesting event. Why does Matthew include this incredible detail? Why doesn't Peter just plunge into the water? I think it's a very important reason. This is not just a story about risk-taking. It's primarily a story about obedience. That means I will have to discern between an authentic call from God and what might simply be a foolish impulse on my part. Is it God's will for me to walk on the water, or is it just an impulse I have? Is it God's will to do whatever you put in that blank? Is it God's will? Or is it just an impulse? You see, ladies and gentlemen, courage alone is not enough. It's got to be accompanied by wisdom and discernment. We got to know when we step out of the boat, it's really God speaking. We cannot be presumptuous in our faith or impulsive. You know, folks, this is really a story about extreme discipleship. This means that before Peter gets out of the boat, he had better make sure Jesus thinks it's a good idea. So he asks for clarity. If it is you, command me. One writer says, and in the darkness I think Jesus smiled. Maybe laughed. Because one person in the boat got it. Peter had some inkling of what it is that the Master is doing. Not only that, Peter had enough faith to believe that he too could share the adventure. He decided he wanted to be a part of history's original water walk. Command me. If I'm going to experience a greater measure of God's power in my life, it will usually involve the first step principle. It will usually begin by my acting in faith, trusting God enough to take a step of obedience. Simply acknowledging information about His power is not enough. I have to get my feet wet. But when I say yes, I set in motion an adventure that will leave me forever changed. Now, all of us know, and most of us have experienced, that traumatic events can change our lives for better or for worse. They can bring about deep character and personality change. For instance, boot camp can be thought of as an example of controlled trauma that is designed to foster traits like loyalty and obedience. Allowing His disciples to face a storm alone in a boat is an example of Jesus using controlled trauma with masterful skill to help them take one more step towards trust that they could never have developed on their own. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes God will put us in a place of controlled trauma so we can learn some things that we could never learn without it. And we understand it. Put yourself in Peter's place for a moment. You have a sudden insight into what Jesus is doing. The Lord is passing by. He's inviting you to go on the adventure of your life. But at the same time, you're scared to death. What would you choose, the water or the boat? I think it's so incredibly interesting that Peter got out of the boat. Let me just share with you a few lessons from this. The first one is the journey of a Christian is a matter of obedience, not just risk-taking. Steps of faith must be done in obedience to the will of God. But here's the first lesson. If Jesus asked you to do it, you can do it. If Jesus asks you to do it, you can do it. This is where we often get into trouble. So many times we have big plans. We work up the ideas and strategies, and then we just set out into the chaos and try to fight against it. When was the last time you actually stopped and said, in all honesty, God, is this your plan? Or am I just trying to do things in my own power and hope that you bless my efforts? Am I joining you in what you're doing, or am I asking you to join me in what I'm doing? It's really a difficult thing to discern, and it's really complex to navigate. But it's important that no matter what we do, we make sure that it's actually something that God has called us to do. There's a distinct difference between being driven and led. If you are driven to do something, you are the one driving the boat, and you will sink like a rock. But if you're being led by God, then God is pulling you into His plan, and He will keep you afloat. You will not sink, no matter what. Here's a second lesson. If you want to do it, whatever God calls you to do, you have to get out of the boat. Most of the time when you listen to God and discern what you are supposed to do to rise above the storm, it's a crazy, scary step that you have to take. Maybe you have to have a really difficult conversation with someone. Maybe you have to admit your own sin in the situation and take some responsibility for the chaos. Maybe you have to forgive someone that you don't think deserves it. Maybe you have to cut up your credit cards or sell your house or make drastic lifestyle changes. Whatever it is totally overwhelming and seemingly impossible. We have to look at Peter and say, I'll do it. I don't know how this will work. It defies all logic. But if Jesus told me to, then I'll step out. Now I want you to know something. Peter had the faith to step out of the boat into the water. But then he took his eyes off Jesus. He looked at the wind and the waves and began to sing. I just want to use an illustration that I think is so clear. Red Fork and CIO have merged. It's voted, it's done, the attorneys are working to change everything, and they stepped out of the water. Both churches by faith. They looked into the face of Jesus, followed Him, but now they're in the storm. What I mean by that is this. Now, problems arise. People are people. As they started the journey on the water, now they have to trust God to continue walking by faith in His will. They can't put their eyes on this person or that person, the storm, the hard work, or whatever. You keep your eyes on Jesus, and the storms and the wind will not derail you. Because eventually, the next thing you know, you'll be experiencing supernatural things. God will give you peace that you didn't think you could have. You'll see God working in ways that you never thought possible. Oh, the storms will still be raging, but you'll be able to stand in spite of it. So the third lesson is, if you focus on the wind and waves, you'll sink. You'll sink. Every single time. Now let me give you the fourth lesson. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your hand, point it right out straight. Come on. I want you to draw a big circle. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that Jesus is the center of that circle. And your focus is on Him. Through God's grace, He has rescued you from your sin. He's promised to be with you always. He loves you. That's the center. Jesus. His love. You can trust Him. He's competent. And He's love. Now hear me. Everything else but Him can be a storm. And a wind. Even good things. Anything that takes your focus off of Him will cause you to sink. Now, folks, I can illustrate it over and over and over. I think more pastors leave the ministry because of the storm and winds of success than they do the storms and wind of failure or Satan. They begin to think they really are the center. And they take their eyes off Jesus. Anything in the sphere of your life must be encountered with your focus on Jesus. He is the rock. He's the foundation. Anything that takes your eyes off Jesus will cause you to sink. If we focus on Jesus, we will rise above all trauma, chaos, storms and winds, and even the good things that distract us from Him. There's a book out called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. That's what God desires from us. God doesn't desire for us to get out of the boat and sink when we take our eyes off Jesus. You see, when Jesus said, Peter, come to me, He didn't mean, Peter, walk halfway and take your eyes off of me and sink. He expects a long obedience in the same direction. It's not enough to have faith to just get out of the boat. You have to walk until you're where Jesus wants you to be. And it's by faith. He looked at Peter and said, you have little faith. Well, he had, it seems to be, more faith than the rest of them. He leased out of the boat. But that wasn't good enough. He wanted a long obedience in the same direction. He wanted him to accomplish what Jesus had in mind. And that was to come to Him. And then Peter prayed that 3-word prayer. And Jesus immediately helped him. And then they both got in the boat. And it went to land. And ultimately, I think what we need to see is that the disciples hadn't learned the lesson from feeding the 5,000 or 4,000. They hadn't learned that Jesus Christ is still competent. and trustworthy. That it doesn't matter if it's one little boy's lunch or a bread truck. God can use it, and He can do what needs to be done because of His character and His competence. So, God calls you and says, listen, I command you to come to me. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to teach a Sunday school class. Or work with children. Or be a deacon. Or be a better grandparent. Or whatever it is. And you have decided, yes, this is not an impulse. This is really what God has called me to do. Then when you get out of the boat, remember the storms and the waves will still be there, but you keep your eyes on Jesus and what He's called you to do, and you will not sink, and He will use you to do what He wanted you to accomplish. And you can do it. You can do it, because He will do it through you. What Jesus wants is a long obedience in the same direction. Don't just get out of the boat. Take a few steps and sing. Go all the way. Whatever that is. And only Jesus knows. Amen? Any questions? You know what Mike this morning preached about Joshua and the children of Israel and how they had to take a step into the water before it parted. And then they walked across on dry land. You always got to put your foot, metaphorically speaking, in the water. But that isn't enough. Finish the course, whatever it is that God's called you to do. All right? No questions? Don't forget 4th Friday fellowship. It's going to be a good meal, a good time. And I'm looking forward to being with you all, where we can talk and laugh and have fun. All right? Pastor? Yeah. I got it. All right. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next Sunday night. I don't know if I want to start Proverbs again yet or not, but I'll have something to say. Okay? Let's pray.